So, when you think about Japanese tech, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Sleek new gadgets? Maybe some futuristic robots? And yeah, you're not wrong. That's definitely part of the story. But the real innovation, the secret sauce, is something much deeper. It's a philosophy, a whole approach that cares more about patient, precise creation than just being the fastest. Let's dive into the mindset that is, believe it or not, quietly shaping our future.
You see, this obsession with mastery is just woven into the very fabric of Japan. It's not something you only find locked away in sterile labs or high-tech factories. Nope, it's this cultural current that flows through everyday life. It's a shared belief that pretty much any task, no matter how small it seems, is a chance to achieve perfection. And this philosophy, it actually has a name. It's called monozukuri. Now, a direct translation is just making things, but that doesn't even come close. It's more like the soul of making. It's the intangible force that turns a regular job into a true craft, and a simple product into a masterpiece of skill and dedication. But what's really fascinating is where this powerful idea even comes from.
You see, this incredible drive for perfection wasn't born from having everything. It was actually forged by constraint, by limitations. In a country that's constantly being challenged by its own geography and demographics, technology isn't some luxury item. It's not for show. It's a fundamental piece of the puzzle for survival, for stability, and for building a future that can last.
So, what happens when you take this super intense Bayesian philosophy and you apply it to some of the world's biggest, gnarliest engineering challenges? Well, the results are pretty extraordinary, to say the least.
Okay, let's kick things off with one of the most iconic symbols of Japanese innovation out there, the Shinkansen, what we know as the bullet train. But it's so much more than just a really fast way to get from A to B. It's basically a 60-year-long story of relentless, patient, continuous improvement.
The Shinkansen wasn't just some single, brilliant invention that popped up overnight. It's the living, breathing embodiment of Kaizen. That's the philosophy of continuous, small, incremental improvements. Literally every single part of it, from the aerodynamic shape of its nose right down to the fabric on the seats, has been rethought, redesigned, and refined over and over for decades.
And what's so cool here is how you can see the priorities changing over time. I mean, it all started with the raw need for speed back in '69. But fast forward to 2020, and the focus is now on resilience, like adding a battery system so the train can get itself to safety if there's a power outage from an earthquake. And looking ahead, the Alpha X is tackling everything from noise pollution to even better stability. It just proves the work is never, ever truly finished.
This is where it gets kind of mind-bending. It shows this willingness to rethink everything from the ground up. If wheels and friction are what's holding you back, what do? Simple. You get rid of them entirely. The maglev train literally floats above the track, pushed along by these incredibly powerful magnetic forces. The track stops being just a surface, it becomes a core part of the engine. It's a complete shift in how you even think about a train. Okay, now let's scale up. Let's go from a single machine to an entire city. How do you apply that same monozukuri philosophy to the massive challenge of building an urban environment, especially when you're dealing with some of the toughest conditions on the planet?
Planners in Japan are juggling a really unique set of pressures. You've got extreme population density, not a lot of physical space, a society that's getting older, and on top of all that, the constant threat of natural disasters. Your standard, off-the-shelf solutions, they just aren't going to cut it here. You have to innovate at every single level.
And right here, we see two amazing examples of that innovation, just at totally different scales. On the left, you've got a super clever physical solution to the space problem, the Chiba Urban Monorail. It's the world's longest suspended monorail, and it hangs underneath its track. So cool. Then on the right, you have a total systems-level solution, the Fujisawa Sustainable Smart Town, a whole community engineered from scratch for 100 years of resilience.
And that right there is the key, the 100-year vision. Think about it. Most modern developments are planned for 20, maybe 30 years out? Fujisawa is designed to not just survive, but to thrive for a full century. It has integrated systems for energy, security, mobility, and healthcare that are all designed to adapt as the people living there change. It's the ultimate example of playing the long game.
Now, this long-term, human-first focus gets even clearer when we start talking about robotics. Because while a lot of the world sees robots as just tools to get a job done faster, Japan is exploring a much deeper, much more personal relationship with machines.
And don't get me wrong, they make these too.
Powerful, super precise humanoid robots built to take on jobs that are difficult, dangerous, or just plain boring for people. This is that practical, problem-solving side of robotics that we're all pretty familiar with.
But then there's this. In a country that's dealing with an aging population and issues of social isolation, engineers started asking a totally different question. Can a robot provide comfort? Can it actually be a companion? This little guy isn't designed to perform a task. It's designed to give a hug, to listen, and just to offer a moment of calm.
Okay, and this next robot takes that idea to a place that is just revolutionary. Meet Nikobo. It does, well, basically nothing useful. It's kind of clumsy, it makes weird noises, it even farts, but that's the whole point. Instead of building a perfect servant, the engineers created a vulnerable companion. The goal wasn't for the robot to serve the human, but for the human to build an emotional bond by caring for the robot. It completely flips the script.
And then, at the complete other end of the spectrum, you have this incredible machine. The Archax mech suit is all about augmenting human potential, turning something you'd see in science fiction into actual functional hardware. It's not about replacing the person, it's about extending their physical reach, merging the pilot and the machine to take on really complex industrial jobs.
So, from trains to cities to robots, you start to see this consistent theme emerging, right? So now, let's zoom out one last time and see how this whole philosophy of patient perfection is being applied to some of the biggest challenges facing all of humanity.
This is the SLIM moon lander, and its mission wasn't just to get to the moon. No, it was to land with almost unbelievable accuracy, within 100 meters of its target. This is Monozukuri on an interplanetary scale. It requires absolute mastery of every single variable and the perfect execution of an insanely complex craft. And that same level of precision is desperately needed to solve the huge problems we have right here on Earth. Just look at this chart. It shows the massive gap between where the aviation industry is headed with CO2 emissions and where it needs to get to hit net zero. Closing that gap is going to require a total reinvention of aircraft technology. And that is exactly what organizations like Japan's space agency JAXA are focused on. And these aren't small little side projects. These are grand challenges. Coming up with massive electric engines for planes, designing floating wind farms that can work in deep coastal waters, and using AI to make sense of vital satellite data. These are the 100-year visions for our entire planet.
Which kind of brings us full circle, back to the core idea. In a world that's so obsessed with moving fast and breaking things, this philosophy offers a really powerful alternative. It suggests that true, lasting value doesn't come from just frantic activity, but from the deep, patient, and relentless pursuit of doing things right. And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. While disruption always seems to grab the headlines, it's often the quiet, continuous refinement, the art of patient perfection, that actually builds the resilient, reliable world of tomorrow. So what could we all learn, maybe, by slowing down just a little and mastering our craft?